Alright, shout out everyone this week creation. Magandang umaga, tanghali, gabi po sa inyong lahat. Sang sulok man po kayo ng mundo. Sa hindi pa nakasubscribe, pa-subscribe naman ang ating channel. At sa hindi pa naka-like sa video na to, pa-like muna. Alright, maraming salamat sa ating mga bagong subscribers. Mega love shout out po sa inyong lahat. Sa pa natin ngayon mga idol, ito naman yung interview kay President Bongbong Marcos Jr. sa ASEAN Society or meeting with the ASEAN Society. Na-interview nga siya ng host and naitanong po siya regarding sa war on drugs and sa performance ng previous administration. So walang iba kundi si Tatay Digong. So naitanong siya kung ano yung mga plano niya sa mga previously na project or nasimulang mga panukalang batas implementation ng ating previous administration, so si Tatay Digong. So ngayon na itanong siya dito mga idol kung ano ang kanyang decision, ano ang kanyang plano, lalo na sa war on drugs and doon sa kaso ng Raffler.
And they've been reliable security partners. So tell me, in a nutshell, how's it going with Uncle Sam? Because it wasn't going so well under President Duterte.
Well, in a sense, despite the fact that my predecessor, President Duterte, had a very different treatment of the relationship between the U.S. and the Philippines. The basic premise of the strong relationship that has been developed between the U.S. and the Philippines over more than 100 years, beyond the time that we had a formal diplomatic relationship, is recognized as being as strong as it has ever been, and that it is necessary, especially with the events of the past few weeks and months, maybe, where what has happened is that many times I had felt that in the past years, there was a feeling that we had come to a kind of modus vivendi in our region. And that we have found a way to live with each other in peace and found a way to calm the waters whenever things go awry a little bit. But again, the events in the last few months really have pointed out that those problems had not really gone away. They were just bubbling under the surface, and they now have come above the surface, and we have to face those challenges, and we have to deal with them. So the United States, the partnership between the United States and the Philippines is going to be certainly a very, very important part of being able to manage those problems that we have been facing. I think it's no surprise to anyone that the Philippines has some of these conflicts with the People's Republic of China. And the position that the Philippines takes is that we have no territorial conflict with China. What we have are China claiming territory that belongs to the Philippines. So this is the position we take, and with our American partners, we have promoted that position. We have also made it very clear to our friends in Beijing that this is the way we feel about it. And as a consequence of this challenge that we have, this territorial challenge that we have, I'd like to point out that this is the first national election in the Philippines where foreign policy was an issue with the people. Generally speaking, in our experience, the foreign policy, the ordinary citizen, the ordinary voter, would say, well, foreign policy is not really our concern. Let the experts in government decide that. But when it happens that our fishermen are not allowed to continue with their livelihood, to fish in areas where they have fished for the last 30, 40 generations, then it becomes an issue right at the gut of our people. And that is where we find ourselves now.
I listened carefully to what you said in your remarks about the West Philippine Sea and your recent stated position of the government in terms of the Permanent Court of Arbitration decision in 2016. So, given China's posture, which is in recent times usually not through grey-coloured vessels, that's warships, but through ships of other colours, sometimes Coast Guard vessels, and sometimes fishing fleets, and sometimes fishing fleets comprised of hundreds of vessels very close together. Looking ahead for the next couple of years, what would you ask our Chinese friends to do differently?
Well, what we have tried, I mean, in my view, nobody wants to go to war. The one thing we need to avoid is a shooting war. And I have always said that the fundamental principle that guides our foreign policy is peace. We talk about the economy. We say that we are in crisis. There are many things that we need to do. We have good plans for it. We are very optimistic about the future. But all of these things will be for naught if there is conflict in the region. Australia is certainly a strong partner in all of these actuations that we have been trying to endorse. In the case of the Philippines, it's clear that militarily there is no comparison between the Philippines and China in terms of capability, in terms of strength, military strength, should it come to that. However, we believe that the strength that we can apply will be from the partnerships, once again, that we have with countries like Australia, with our ASEAN members, with the rest of our friends and allies in the region. And that's why I think that ASEAN is going to have to play a stronger role in all of these discussions, and in trying to, again, keep the peace and slowly, but continue to engage China. Because once that engagement stops, then there is no progress. And then things could very easily deteriorate, and that is not what we want to happen. So we have tried, on a bilateral basis with China, although we maintain our position in terms of our maritime territories and their fishing rights, our economic zones, we have nonetheless tried to continue to engage China on that basis, on those subjects, but also engage China on other aspects, the people-to-people relationships, even the economic relationships that we have fostered with China, even some of the other exchanges that we have had in terms of education, in terms of cultural exchanges, in terms of all of the other things. I have always told my Chinese friends, and I said, let us not make our differences concerning maritime, like the baselines, the economic zones, etc. Let us not make that the defining element of our relationship. Because if that is the only if that will be the defining relationship of the defining part of our relationship, then we are really at a standstill. And hopefully, if we make progress in other areas, this will help. I always quote that the way that the United States, for example, and China came together was through ping pong. If you remember, it was because the Chinese ping pong captain played with the United States ping pong captain, and they became friends, and ping pong went to the United States. And this led to Richard Nixon going to China and establishing diplomatic relations. So perhaps that's something. So we must explore everything. We must explore every avenue. We do it G to G, government to government.
Basketball? Could we do basketball?
Basketball could be could be another. But in any single way, we never know. You never know where the progress will come. So you have to try everything. You cannot discount anything and limit yourself to just the traditional ways of negotiating, the traditional ways of dealing with this kind of problem. We have to be, to an extent, I would say that we have been successful and that we have slowly begun to redefine, or rather, no, not redefine, but to add to that relationship in other aspects of diplomatic life, of political life within the region. And I think that has happened because of, again, the strong partnerships that we have with the other countries, our allies around the region. And that way, that united front that we can present, I think is a very, very important aspect of that engagement.
Under President Duterte, there were concerns raised about human rights in the Philippines, and particularly in his drugs campaign. Some questions today about legal actions against your Nobel laureate, Maria Ressa. And then even the State Department report, annual report, refers to several hundred continued political prisoners. So your reflections, I noticed what you said before about unifying all Filipinos. Could you give us your reflections on the future of human rights in the Philippines?
Well, the argument, or rather the discussion about human rights in the Philippines in the past few years has really derived from the anti-drug war that President Duterte undertook. And as I come into office, you look and you see we cannot stop the drug war. The problem continues to exist. What we can do is to examine and learn lessons from the experience from the past administration.
But there was the Nobel laureate, Maria Ressa. I know there's some sort of legal case involving her at the moment. What are the prospects there? Is it caught up in your courts, or is it because she's a Nobel Prize winner, there is international preoccupation with her case as well?
Well, really what happened with Maria Ressa and Rappler is that it was determined that it is a foreign enterprise, and that's not allowed in our rules, in our law. And her situation right now is that it has nothing to do with her political leanings. What has happened is that an individual has filed cyber libel cases against her, and that's what she's facing now. So that is the situation with Maria Ressa. Rappler actually continues to operate. You can look them up on the internet. They make their comments and make their posts, and they continue to operate in that way. However, she herself personally is facing, I believe it's 2 cyber libel cases, and we just, we have a very clear delineation of powers in our political system, very much styled after the American system, where we have the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature, and they're co-equal. And so it is highly improper for the executive to interfere in either the legislature or the judiciary.
And including in Australia, but we have 5 centres here in America. You are always a welcome guest here because we wish your country, the Philippines, all the best for the future. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Kevin Rudd, for those very kind words, and thank you all, members of the Asia Society, for this very warm welcome that you have given me. Thank you very much indeed.
So, yung mga idol, no, yung mga issue na kanilang napag-usapan. So, of course, kasama po yung war on drugs na nasimulan po ni Tatay Digong. Ang naman, regarding po sa claim ng Pilipinas sa territory na sinasabing pagmamayari ng China, ang sabi ng ating Pangulo, na ang China is claiming our territory which belong to the Philippines. So, nanindigan yung ating mahal na Pangulo na sa atin yung territory na sinasakop or pilit kiniklaim ng China. Ang tungkol naman sa Rappler, na itanong yung ating Pangulo kung ano yung kanyang comment sa Rappler. Ang sabi nga niya, ang Rappler ay nagka-problema dahil sa foreign enterprise. So pagmamayari ng foreigner which is not Filipino. So hindi po allow sa ating bansa. And tungkol naman doon kay may-ari ng Rappler, ang sabi nga niya is may sarili siyang individual na kaso na hindi naman kasama doon sa kanyang company na Rappler. So yun po yung napag-usapan at nakita naman natin yung performance ng ating mahal na Pangulo. Maayos niya na nasagot yung mga tanong sa kanya, yung mga topic na napag-usapan sa ASEAN community, ASEAN Society meeting. So for me, very good. Maganda yung naging performance ng ating mahal na Pangulo. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Again, this is Recreation. Thank you for supporting my channel.